I think a lot has been accomplished, and as I've always believed in anything that I say, it's not me doing it by myself, but it's really a network of the community, the council and staff that make it work. So any of the successes that I talk about are successes, I think, was generated by pulling the community together, the staff, different entities, and council together to be in agreement or in concert with what we were trying to achieve. So that's an important piece to really summarize of everything that I intend to talk about, because without any of the other people, it's impossible to achieve it by yourself. And so I would say in the last 3 terms, it has gone like a twinkling in an eye, and it's gone fast, but yet it seems like, holy cow, there has been a lot accomplished. Well, first of all, Fort Collins is already a prime city, so it wasn't something that was brought out of nothing to all of a sudden something. It has been establishing itself for many years. The simple things of how our former councils many years back thought about, a 50-year drought. Sure enough, we had one, but they thought of that 50 years ago. It's those kinds of innovative thinking and creativity that really makes us such a gem in all of Colorado. And now, on a national level, we're recognized nationwide as some of the best sites in the United States. Leaving is a little difficult because I feel like there's some things I still want to accomplish and I want to see through. For example, like building a new police department building. I knew it was way too small for the way the agency was growing. It was too small when I retired in 1996, and it was a broken promise since 1974 that they were going to build us a new police building. Well, I decided to help keep that promise. And after talking with council and the city manager and people in the community, they felt like, this is a priority need. And some willing to even take it as initiative to vote on it by the voters. But I felt like, we just built a new city administration building. We found the way to do that without going for new tax dollars. Let's build a police building demonstrating that same ability. And we have done it. Now, it's taken me since 1999 till now, here we are, 2005, to have the contract signed, the land bought, the deal closed, and now we're going to break ground in 2006. That's what I wish I was still mayor for. Well, probably the most unanticipated thing that I think the whole nation had to deal with was September 11th. And there was a cry from the community and from the world and from nation that we had to react. And how we reacted, obviously we don't have a military force, and that's not the idea. But I think as a community leader, you have to help bring the community together. It was important for me to get on the radio stations right away, to touch base with the media, to hold a noon meeting and rally of mourning at City Hall. And probably the most touching piece is when the school across the street, St. Joseph's Church, is when the kids, the first and second graders, asked me to come over to pray with them about the people in New York City. And they all had white balloons, and we're going to release them at noon. And it was quite an eventful afternoon. And when I walked over there, one of the little kids, a little girl, came up to me. She looked like she was probably a first or second grader, and she said, Mr. Mayor, she said, there's a lot of people hurt over there, isn't there? And it kind of moved me because she couldn't fathom the amount of carnage that occurred. And it's for those reasons why you stand as a leader and represent them. It's that motivation that says, this is why leadership is so important in our community, to help these kids, to protect these kids, to help them understand what freedom means. In trying to accomplish some of my campaign promises, I think, was really essential. And one was the police department building I mentioned. The other was the traffic synchronization of lights. Now, that was just completed in December of 2004, but we had worked on it from the day I came into office in 1999, and both councils, and targeting that and making sure that happened. It was accomplished. We've done it. Our traffic flow is improved by 30-some%, if not better, and it will continue to improve because they're still working on them. So that's one part of it. The internet sites at the public library and people having access to them, and children. So we got a new software and that was very effective, and now there's even screens that we have on there so people can't walk by and look at someone else's internet site in case they're looking at a bad site and a child can't see it. So there was some struggle, I think, internally with staff wondering, well, is that the right thing to do? Is that freedom of speech? And we got past that, and we accomplished that, and I think that was an important piece. The Character City Initiative, a very important piece, I think, that really helped weave the community together and taking on that initiative that involved creating a city council of character, a Fort Collins Council of Character, and Bob Powell, community leader himself, agreed to help organize and put that together, and I empowered him to do that. I didn't want to run it for him or take it over, but let him do that, and he was able to accomplish that. And at the same time, while he was putting that together, we passed a resolution, a commitment as council to be a city of character, and simultaneously the school board done the same thing. The county commissions jumped on board, and without even asking, Colorado State University jumped on board, and they became a campus of character. They even have their own website. Poudre Valley Hospitals initiate many of the things that we do and that we talk about. The private employers are doing it. So I thought it was something that really connected the community together. That gap that I wanted to bridge, that was one of my chief goals, is to say, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same community. We need to bridge that gap together, learn to walk together, and when we're trying to accomplish our goals, let the others know what's going on so they can be a part of that, and try to encourage them to do the same thing. So those were very important achievements to me. And some of that is, how do we link our neighborhood associations together? I found a program that's called Neighborhood Link, and a company that does that, and I got Platte River Power Authority to help sponsor that, so it didn't cost anybody anything. And today, all the neighborhood associations are connected to that. Some are using it more than others, but they're still connected. Part of trying to run government efficient is what people are concerned about. Are we doing things efficiently, and how do we work together? The liquor board, for example, is a good example that we try to curtail the problem of so much interaction with the liquor agencies and the people who have their establishments trying to get hearings in. It became backlogged and took a long time, and we thought the most efficient way to do that, really, as I suggested to council, is that let's run it through municipal court. A lot of communities do that. And we decided to do that, and it's been very effective now. The municipal court handles all the liquor hearings, all of the licensing, and now we're getting things done a lot more efficiently. It's just that sometimes it's too much for a board to handle, and sometimes it gets too politicized, where in a court arena, it doesn't have to be politicized like it was before. And we made the municipal court, my suggestion was to make them a court of record, meaning that they were recorded, or some courts have stenographers. In our case, we record all of our court proceedings, which all of a sudden now we become a court of record for appeals. It makes things simpler for us to challenge cases if they're appealed, and we have something that's of record we can look at. So I think those are very important pieces to make government work more efficiently and smoother. The other piece that I think we always have to look at is our economy, and how do we help stimulate the economy. One of the things I learned at the National League of Cities when I was at a conference in Salt Lake City is the Earned Income Tax Credit Program, which allows those who are at a low income level, who are indigent, to claim tax money that's been reserved for them, that's due them, that's already been approved by Congress for them to collect on. Many of them didn't know that. And some were certainly capable of collecting anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 in a single year. Well, we brought over $300,000 back into the community by me attending that one conference and all of a sudden getting volunteers on board, AARP, the Volunteers of America and others, tax accountants who are retired, volunteering their time, bilingual people, helping those in the Spanish-speaking community file these tax claims that were coming to them that they never realized certainly had coming to them every year. And now they were able to bring that money back into the community. Naturally, they spend it here, so it was a win-win situation for all of us. And we thought that was a great program that's still in effect. I think we're in our third year of doing that, and it's very successful. So we're very proud of what we've accomplished in that area. Some of the things that I think we miss in the community is how do we recognize people who are not really highlighted in the community? And they don't necessarily want to be, but sometimes I think it's good to bring those people from behind the scenes and let the public know, look, we've got people that work behind the scenes who are champions for this community every day of their life. So I created what I call as a Mayor's Exemplary Citizenship Award, and we've recognized probably 15 to 20 people at least, for their exemplary actions that they've taken in the community, their humanitarian deeds, their willingness and unselfishness to really play a key role in this community, and yet not trying to get the limelight to do it. They have done tremendous jobs, and we did a special program on that as well, and to highlight some of those people who have done that. So it was my job to really try to recognize and see who some of those people were. We didn't hand it out like candy, but we were very selective. As you can tell, in 6 years, we only picked about 20 people. Now, I know there's much more out there, but I just want people to get a glimpse and see who these people are and how significant a role that they play in. When we look at our emergency services, we talked a little bit about the police department, but I saw that we have a dire need of a mobile command post. When we saw September 11th occur, all these things came to light. I thought, we're not ready on some of these things. We don't have it in place. And the immediate reaction is by management to say, well, let's ask for a new tax dollar. No, we have to dig deep and find it ourselves within our own budget. And that's exactly what we did between the partnership of PFA and the police department's budget and working with the city manager's office. And we found the money, we got it, and now we have today a mobile command post that is state-of-the-art. It's probably one of the best around. People are looking at ours as their examples to build one for themselves. So it's in place, and it's here, and we didn't ask for new tax dollars to do it. I'm very proud of that. As you know, my chief concern is usually on the youth, and because I think they're one of the most vulnerable people, and yet they're one of the most important investments we have. I really believe if we don't take care of our youth today, they're going to take care of us tomorrow. So we must decide how we help take care of them today and how they take care of us tomorrow. And some of that is the issues that you hear much that youth talk about is there's nothing for us to do. Well, I'm not convinced it's always government's responsibility to do it, but I think we have a responsibility to try to help facilitate that and get that partnership we need to do that. For example, the Eudora skate park, that was a big demand by a lot of youth who had written to me and asked for that, and so we pulled that together, managed to make it work, and the management team here in the city was great about that. We got design artists in, and it's a great park. It's being heavily used. And now we have a second one at the new Fossil Creek Park, so we have two of them for kids to use. And you know what that did? Eliminate them taking advantage of skating downtown, destroying some of our city property and other private building properties where they were skating on top of them and causing damage. Now we've seen a huge reduction of that. It's not occurring as much because we have a site for them. So we deterred some damage and yet increased some facilities for something for them to do. That's part of that investment. And as you know, the first program I implemented for Talk of the Town was a community-wide meeting with youth in our city, with different city councils, even in the private school sector, asking them what they wanted out of a future youth activity center. And they really shared some thoughts and stimulated some ideas. And at that time, when I was in office in '99, we didn't have our own youth activity center, but it was my goal to try to achieve that, and we did it. I put together a citizen board. Brownie McGraw chaired it. She did an excellent job in helping bringing people together. They identified funds and ways and mechanisms to come up with a site, which Bob Everett was very instrumental in. He's probably a true patriarch of Fort Collins, who's a hallmark of what we are able to accomplish in this city. And we identified a place out by the Foothills Mall, which used to be HealthWorks and now is our new youth activity center, designed with many of the ideas and concepts that some of the youth had in 1999 are now in place. One of the things that lacked was a full court gymnasium. And we struck into we hit a very good fundraising idea of trying to raise money to get it paid for. And I think it's almost 100% paid for just by the fundraising. And one of our locals in town that many people know, Barney Apodaca himself, raised over $7,000 for that center because of such a generated interest, even by Barney, that he managed to collect a lot of the loose change in the different bars and taverns in town, and he collected over $7,000. That's the kind of ability this community has at all levels in our society. So that's a great image and picture that we have of what Fort Collins is like. And it'll stay that way for a long time. It's not because of me, but I certainly wanted to make sure I could help fuel that in all ways that I knew how, being raised in this town all my life and being a shoe-shine boy myself downtown. I know what it's like to get out there and be an entrepreneur. That was my first job, shining shoes. I used to shine the mayor's shoes and the city manager's shoes. That was my job. And I said to myself, one of these days, I'm going to wear those shoes. And I wear them today, so I have to live up to it. One of the outreaches I love to do is making sure that, I've always said, let's take government back to the people. And one of the ways I like doing that is to meet with the public in different parts of the community once a month. I call it a stop and chat. And we would sometimes meet with at a coffee shop or at a restaurant. And sometimes people came to complain, some came to compliment, and some parents brought their kids there just to meet the mayor. So I thought that was interesting, that they were interested in having their kids know who the mayor was and just to get a chance to meet him in their neighborhood. And I think that's fantastic. Part of that communication level requires that we're able to talk with people at all segments of our community. And I know one of our stop and chats, we took the time to visit with the hard of hearing community, or the people who are deaf. So we had sign language interpreters to help us with that. I think we even did a program on that, if I remember right, as one of our programs, monthly shows. And all of a sudden we realized there's a large population out there. And some of them, I think, genuinely were concerned. Some were upset that why we've never outreached to them before. And I told them that's going to change. So we started out with sign language in city council meetings, and we finally graduated to actually having closed caption for the hearing. And it's tough to do right away because it's expensive. You have to have a live person that's really typing in the language and have the live broadcast. But we're doing it, and it's successful. And I've gotten messages from those who are hard of hearing thanking us for it. And I don't know how large our audience is, but I know it's large enough that they let their concerns be known to me, and they showed up for a meeting, quite a few of them, concerned about it. So I think we had an obligation to try to meet their needs. We saw a need, and we addressed it. And we fell on board with it. I think the council agreed, and I think we all thought it was the right thing to do, and that was good. The other thing was, I soon discovered, we looked at our public parks, and this was brought to my mind by a visitor from California who said, you don't really have a universally accessible playground for all kids. And I said, what do you mean? And she told me, she said, you only have about maybe 1 out of 10 children are unable to play on these playgrounds because of their disability or some form of disability that they have. And it never dawned on me that way. But all of a sudden I realized that there aren't any public parks like that in Colorado that we know of. We checked it out, and we can't find any. Some that thought they had it, we went and looked at them, they didn't have it. I don't think anyone understood what it was. And now we've identified that need. And we also identified it's a big ticket item. It's about $1 million playground, and there's no way the city budget can handle that. But we did identify a site in the Southwest Playground, or Southwest Community Park, the new one that's coming up, to put it there and use some of the city fund to help pay for that playground. And in addition to that, we're raising money, doing a fundraiser. Again, Brownie McGraw's helped sit on that board. Bob Powell is sitting on that board. Many other leaders in our community are sitting on that board. Mark Driscoll has chipped in and to be a part of that and help us with our advertisement. Sonny Lubick is part of that. He's playing a big role in helping us promote it and try to raise money for that park. We're going to do it. I won't see it in my term. But what I did see in my term is that vision becoming a reality. And now we've identified a site. Now it's just a matter of making it physically happen. And the money's being brought in to do that. I'm very proud of that. We'll be the very first public, universally accessible playground in the state of Colorado to have one. We'll be the first. We're first in a lot of things. But this is a great one to have it so we can say 100% of our kids can play on it, not 90%. That's important. It's important that everybody is inclusive. The other thing that we've seen that has kind of taken us by surprise a little bit in the community is all of a sudden that we had seen at least two dramatic alcohol overdose deaths in our community, especially with young college students. This has really struck the media big time. The nation is watching us and what we do because they know what kind of community we are. They know what kind of university we have. And I think Dr. Penley took a very strong leadership role in saying, we are going to address this. And the Lieutenant Governor, Jane Norton, chaired that committee with many people from our community as being a part of that. And as a result of that, they came out with a lot of good recommendations. And as a result of that, I recommended to the council and asked them, I said, Council, I think we really need to consider putting a Campus West police substation, not just staffed with police officers, but staffed with police officers and CSU police officers, along with code enforcement officers, along with neighborhood resource people that can address these things as they unfold and quit trying to analyze them months later, because then you're just playing catch-up. It's almost like saying, how long can you tread water? We don't need to do that. I think we can come up with a office in those neighborhoods where some of the problems may be and work with the neighbors to try to help their neighborhoods look safe, feel safe, and the appearance, clean it up a little bit so it looks like a genuine family neighborhood regardless of their age, regardless of where they're from, regardless of the color of their skin. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we all live together on the same planet, in the same community, in the same neighborhood. So we all have to get along, and that's important. So I introduced that idea at a press release with Dr. Penley and with Lieutenant Governor Jane Norton as well. And the concept has been very well accepted. The chief of CSU Police Department says, we want to be on board. We want to be a part of that. Let's see how we can help. Dr. Penley has said the same thing. A number of our council members are in agreement that, yes, let's explore that. Let's work on something. Even if it starts out just being on weekends and then maybe expanding it to full time. So we'll see how that works. But that's one of the visions I have that needs to continue on, that needs to go forward. And I hope they finish that project, just like I hope they finish the project of the police department building as well. And I hope they finish the project of the Poudre River development and that plan that comes to fruition someday. I want to see all these kind of things come to life. When I leave office, I'm not leaving town. I'm going to still be here. Only I may be at the different end of the pulpit. The other thing I think it's really an important piece that's going to take a community-wide, county-wide effort is when we build this new police department, that we honestly have to look at ourselves and our budget and see how we can centralize our communication system so we don't have so many different dispatch centers throughout the county. You have a dispatch center in Estes Park, Loveland, the Sheriff's Office, CSU Police Department, our department. Why so many? Why 5? At that we're talking about millions of dollars of expense that can be consolidated and still will be able to absorb all those employees because the turnover rate is very high. We'll be able to absorb that and become more stable, have a centralized communication system that's effective for the hospital, for the police services, for the fire department, and for all emergency support. There's no reason to do it. What we have to do is get our egos out of the way and not be so protective of our turf and say, look, let's do this together on behalf of the community.